3 days. It's half day on Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And it has all of the power players from Catholic Answers, Tim Staples, who else? Jimmy Akins will be there. I don't have all of them. I would strongly encourage you to go on to Catholic.com, both for the Catholic Answers magazine and to sign up for the conference. More details there. Yes, Robert?
It's Thursday through Saturday. Yeah.
It's Thursday through Saturday? I thought it was Friday through Sunday.
It's like a Thursday night thing and then all day Friday and Saturday.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so be it. Still well worth it if you can make it out there. I am planning on going there. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about Christian unity. Most of the talks are going to be about what caused the Reformation, how to talk to our separated brothers and sisters to bring them into the faith, and so forth. Once there's a flyer out, I will certainly bring it around for you to see, but you can certainly go online on yourself. Another quick announcement, the website, stcharlesbiblestudy.com, is looking good. And again, thanks to Roy for the videos and for Mitchell for setting it up. I'm also contacted Brian, who is in charge of the bulletin, to put the web address in the bulletin along with the announcement of Bible study. And it will have all of the outlines, the closed form, the fill-in kind. This is called closed form. That will be on there. My testimony, which I expanded, is on there. All of the videos. I've talked to Roy and Mitchell about the idea of having a links page so that there will be links to things like Catholic Answers, Immaculate Heart, EWTN, John Paul the Great University, Franciscan University, all of the faithful Catholic resources that we can get. So that's something that's in the works, so stay tuned. And I'm excited. I'm getting more excited about it. Now that I've taken a little hiatus, I've been thinking about doing like little mini lessons, apologetic lessons on various topics, and maybe having them posted as well. Just some ideas, and so forth. But anyway, so that's what we have. Let's get on to tonight. Yes?
Can you also post those videos you showed during class?
Oh!
7 churches?
Yes, they're embedded in the videos that are part of the class, but you're right, you can't see them as well. That's a good idea. I'll pass them on to Roy. And I'm going to pass you the video clips that I showed in class by themselves to post on a separate, someplace.
I have a copy of it too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'll just edit it later.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Well, there you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know too much about the group that produced them, but I thought that they were very well done.
Yeah.
Very succinct. Like I said, you could look on YouTube for more elaboration on each of the churches, but I thought the succinctness was very well done, and that's what I wanted. Something that got to the point. It gave a little history of each of the places, which gives you an insight as to why Jesus said what he said to each of the churches. With that, I want to go into a final word about the churches. And then I'm going to go into tonight's next chapters. We're actually making very good progress for Revelation. We're already into chapter 4. Ooh. We have 8 more like 18 to go. 18 chapters. But a lot of the chapters in Revelation are short. And the outlines, I got crazy this weekend. I don't know what came over me. But I outlined the rest of the outlines, the handouts. And I notice I'm clumping them in groups of 2. Like tonight, you're going to get an outline that covers chapters 4 and 5. And that's because chapters 4 and 5 really go together. When we do the opening of the seals, we're going to do chapters 6 and 7 together. And then chapters 8 and 9. So they're clustered in groups of 2 from now on. So there you are. Just a few opening questions before I do my end here. Last week we spoke about the message to the last church, the church of Laodicea. Remember that? Which covers all 7 churches. And the key element I wanted you all to focus on was, what do all the rewards mean? What is the meaning of all of the rewards? And what did I propose as the answer to that? What is the message that you get out of all of the rewards?
You get to be like Jesus.
Yes, that's it, exactly. You become like Jesus. Every single one of the rewards can be applied to Christ. So we look at the rewards. To him who overcomes, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. Jesus is the tree of life. He who conquers shall not be hurt by the second death. Jesus is the resurrection and the life. We heard that in last Sunday's gospel, didn't we not? The raising of Lazarus. I love that story. Oh, I wish I could have taught that in the young adult Bible study. I really do. It's one of my favorite stories because it goes with the whole idea. Mary and Martha had faith for the past. She said, yes, I know, Lord. Martha says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. She had faith that Jesus could cure her in the past, right? And then Jesus said, no, your brother will rise again. And she goes, yes, I know, Lord. At the end of time, my brother will rise again, right? Remember that? Mm-hmm. And that's faith for the future. But did she have any faith for now? No. And that's what Jesus called her to. What did Jesus say in response to that? I am the resurrection and the life. I am now. Not the past, not the future, now. I am the resurrection. Do you believe you'll see your brother rise again? And what did she say? Yes. And that opened the healing for Lazarus to come back. Which is a greater miracle, yes, brace yourself, than Jesus' resurrection. Why would I say such a blasphemous thing?
Because Lazarus has been dead for 4 days while Jesus was only 3.
Yes. Remember, they said, Lord, if we open the tomb, there's going to be a stench because he's starting to decay. Did Jesus decay?
No.
No. Lazarus was already starting to decay. But Jesus was able to do what? Raise him. Do you ever think about that miracle? Okay, there was Lazarus, right? He had some sort of illness, we don't know what, and he died from it, right? Mm-hmm. And he had been dead so long, he started to decay. Right? Mm-hmm. So Jesus had to, in raising him, overcome the decay, cure his disease, and bring his soul back from the underworld. Yes? It was a monument. It was the most pinnacle miracle of Jesus' life. And in some respects, I won't say all, in some respects, a greater miracle than even his own rising from the dead. Because Jesus didn't see decay. Robert.
We know that Jesus was making miracles of healing, so it would be nice for Lazarus to be healed from his illness. But I think he was trying to stress the point of the significance of rising from the dead.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Jesus knew he died, remember? Mm-hmm. And he still waited.
Yes.
And then he says, oh, I'm going to go. Lazarus is asleep. And the disciples said, well, if he's sleeping, he's going to get better. He goes, no, guys. You don't understand. He's dead. And I'm glad I stayed with you. Did you remember that part? I'm glad I stayed with you. You know why? So that you'll see the glory of God. It would be a good miracle to cure him of his sickness, right?
Yeah.
Everyone good on that?
Yep.
Well, what would be greater if he had been dead one day and rose again? And it'd been pretty good. How about 2 days? Pretty fantastic. How about 3? Let's go for 4. Right? And as one of the many preachers I've heard preach on that sermon, on that passage said, if Jesus hadn't said, Lazarus, come forth, that whole graveyard would have risen from the dead. That's how powerful Jesus is. Right? Amen? Amen? Yes, Jesus had the power. He is the resurrection and the life. And every one of those dead persons would have risen to Jesus' command. If he did say, Lazarus, you, come out. Right? Amen? Amen. And at one day, that's exactly what's going to happen. All the dead are going to rise at Jesus' command. Wow, what a glory. What a glory. Wow. Powerful message. But Jesus said, he who conquers shall not be hurt by the second death, because Jesus is the resurrection. To him who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will give him a white stone. All of these are references to Jesus himself. Jesus is the bread of life. Jesus is the rock, the cornerstone upon which the church is built. Right? But Jesus says to him who overcomes will get the manna, will get the stone, will be a pillar in my temple, will rule the nations, will be clad in white garments. I will confess him before my Father, and he will sit with me on the throne. Every single one of these rewards is what Jesus is or has. But he says we will share in that. That is the message and reward of the saints. It's Jesus himself. Nothing more, nothing less. Glory to God. What an inheritance we have. What a gift. Do we want anything else?
No.
How could we want anything else? We're getting all of God. Right? In exchange for what? What do we have to give him? Nothing. Our sin, our weakness, our failings, our faith, our hope, our love, and even that's a gift from him. We have nothing to give that he hasn't given to us. Amen? What about our life? Is that our own?
No.
Who gave it to us?
God.
You see that? So everything that God gives us, we give back and he rewards that. Wow, what a deal. What a deal. You try and find that at the IRS. You're not going to find that anywhere. We got the best deal in town. Our life, our weakness, our sin, we just give it to God. And you know what he gives us? Jesus. More of him. And we experience this every time at Mass. Right?
Right.
Amen.
Amen.
So that is the message of the churches. Now, what's the final word on this? There's a lot that could be said. What I want to do is kind of share a theory. I don't subscribe to it, but you see it a lot. I think there might be something to it, but I don't subscribe to it in the way that it is most commonly presented, if that makes any sense. Because most of the places where I see this theory are in various Protestant denominations. So you always have to take that with a grain of salt, because they have an axe to grind, usually, against the Catholic Church. But it's an interesting theory, and it's actually in this overview. The message of the churches one way that it is interpreted is that each of these 7 churches represents a different era of the church's life from its inception to its consummation. What does that mean? Well, the church began in Pentecost and it will end at the last day, okay, when God gathers us all together. And in between that time, some have understood that these 7 churches represent 7 eras of church history. Now, here's where it gets a little fuzzy. No one really can nail down from one denomination to another where one ends and where one begins. So that's what makes me a little bit hesitant. But I'm going to present this just as kind of an FYI. Does that make sense? So, for example, the Church of Ephesus represents the apostolic era church. Church full of fervor and love and zeal for the church. It had very little against it to be said, except it started to lose its first love. And that goes from about, the first 100 years or so of the church. The second era is the era of persecution of the church from about 160 to 313 AD. And this is represented by the Smyrna church. So you see here the lions, the Christians that were persecuted and killed and martyred during this 200-year period. The church of Pergamum represents the time in which the church and the state began to merge. The church came out of the underground and was merged to the Roman Empire. And this goes from the 313, when the Edict of Tolerance was pronounced by Constantine, through the early Middle Ages. Okay? It's when the church came out of the underground and started gaining political power. Then the darkness of the Middle Ages is represented by Thyatira, and that's why Jesus had very little to say good about it, because the church was so blended with the world that it lost its focus. So this is the period of the Middle Ages. And in this case, you see the burning of heretics and so forth and so on, the persecutions that came with those that had dissenting voices, so to speak. So you can start to see some of the bias of these Protestant churches against Roman Catholicism, which is seen as a villain during this time. Because the church of Sardis begins to have this awakening